Most people who are in debt don't have a spending problem. They have a system problem. Because a spending problem means you're irresponsible. But a system problem means nobody ever taught you how to handle money under pressure. And when you're in debt, you're always under pressure. You're making decisions when you're stressed, when you're tired, when you feel like there's no way out. They ignore the debt. They move it around. They take new loans to cover old ones. And slowly, what started as a small hole becomes something that feels impossible to climb out of it. But here's what I want you to understand before anything else. Debt is not a life sentence. It's a math problem with an emotional wrapper. And once you strip away the shame and the anxiety, what you're left with is a set of numbers. Numbers that can be organized, prioritized, and systematically eliminated. People have come back from tens of thousands in debt, some from hundreds of thousands, not because they got lucky, but because they stopped avoiding the problem and started facing it with a clear plan. So that's what this video is about. Not motivation, not generic advice. A real step-by-step system that actually works. The first step, and this is the one most people skip, is to know exactly what you owe. Not roughly, not approximately, exactly. Most people in debt have a vague sense of their situation. They know they owe on a credit card. They know there's a loan somewhere. They remember a bill they haven't opened in a while. But they've never sat down and written out the complete picture. And the reason they avoid it is because it feels scary. Looking at the full number feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. But here's the thing. You are already at the edge of that cliff, whether you look down or not. The only difference is, if you don't look, you can't see the path back to safe ground. So make a list. Write down every single debt, the creditor, the total amount, the minimum payment, and the interest rate. 4 columns. It turns a cloud of anxiety into a list of specific numbers. And specific numbers can be dealt with. Anxiety cannot. Now, here's where most people get it wrong. Once they have the list, they try to pay everything equally, a little bit on each debt, spreading their limited money across everything. And this feels logical. It feels fair. But it's one of the slowest ways to get out of debt, because interest is working against you every single month. The longer you take, the more you pay in interest. It's a slow drain that most people underestimate until they do the math.
So, instead of paying everything equally, you're going to focus. There are 2 methods that work. The right one depends on your psychology. The first is called the avalanche method. Sort your debts by interest rate, highest to lowest. Pay the minimum on everything else, and put every extra dollar toward the highest interest debt first. This is mathematically the fastest and cheapest way to get out of debt. The numbers don't lie. But the problem with the avalanche, high-interest debts are often your biggest debts. It can take months before you see any debt fully disappear. And for a lot of people, that's too long. They lose motivation, they give up. And a perfect plan you abandon is worth nothing. This is why the second method exists. The snowball method. Sort your debts by balance, smallest to largest, and attack the smallest debt first. The math is slightly worse, but the psychology is much stronger. Because when you pay off that first small debt completely, something happens. You feel it. There's a real win. There's proof that this is working. And that momentum keeps you going. Studies show the snowball leads to better completion rates. And the reason is simple. Humans are not spreadsheets. We need to feel progress, and the snowball gives you that. So which one should you choose? If you're disciplined and can stay motivated without visible wins, go with Avalanche. If you need momentum and psychological fuel, go with Snowball. Either way, pick one and commit. The method matters far less than the consistency with which you apply it. Now here's something nobody talks about enough. While you're paying down debt, you need to stop the bleeding. A lot of people are in a cycle, paying off debt on one side and creating new debt on the other. A forgotten subscription, a credit card used when cash runs tight, an emergency with no savings. And this cycle continues if you don't break it deliberately. This is why you also need to build what I call a starter cushion. Not a full emergency fund, not yet. Just 1 month of essential expenses. Its purpose is not investment, it's protection. So when something unexpected happens, you don't add to your debt. You use the buffer, rebuild it, and keep moving forward. Getting out of debt requires sacrifice. Not forever, but for a defined period. And that period feels long when you're in it, but short once you're through it. People who have climbed out of serious debt will tell you the same thing. It was hard, but it was worth it. So what does sacrifice look like in practice? Not upgrading your phone this year. Cooking at home instead of eating out. Pausing streaming services you barely use. None of these are permanent. None will ruin your life. Every time you make that choice, you're not depriving yourself. You're investing in the version of your life that exists on the other side of this.
Let me give you something concrete. Let's say you have $200 left each month after basics. Without a plan, that $200 disappears into small purchases, into things you won't remember a week later. But with a plan, that $200 goes directly at your smallest debt. That could mean eliminating an entire debt in 3 or 4 months. Then you take that same $200, add what you were paying on the first debt, and roll it into the next one. It starts small, but it picks up size and speed as it moves. There comes a point in the debt payoff journey where the momentum shifts, where you've eliminated enough smaller debts that you have more money freed up each month, where the end is visible, where you can actually calculate the month when the last debt disappears. And that moment, when the math starts working for you instead of against you, is one of the most powerful feelings you can have around money. The last thing I want to leave you with is this. Your relationship with debt is also a relationship with yourself. The shame you carry, the stories you tell about why you're here, those matter. Because the wrong mindset will undermine every good strategy you try. But if you can separate what happened from who you are, something changes. You start making decisions from intention instead of shame. So here's your starting point. Today, not tomorrow, today. Make that list. Write down everything you owe. All of it. Look at the number. And remember, every person who climbed out of debt started exactly where you are right now, staring at a number that felt impossible, and deciding to take the first step anyway.